All right, I had the luxury, the privilege of hanging out with you backstage and picking your brain because you talk a lot about real estate. You also have made videos where you don't talk so highly of real estate in certain cases. So I've heard people...
Well, I talk about leverage.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was you that got me thinking about my own real estate portfolio, and inevitably I made a decision 2 years ago that I'm not going to invest in any real estate unless it has a significant income stream attached to it.
Right, because if you're using leverage, you need the cash flow. You have to have it. You have to have it. So, and I use leverage like everybody else. You have to sometimes get a return. But you got to have cash flow to service it, or you are screwed. You'll lose your equity.
And I think a lot of people don't realize the incredible options there are. Like, we're doing resorts and hotels. You're looking at data farms.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
Totally different play, but still lots of revenue.
Yeah, because I kind of came up in the climate control storage where we would lease multiple acres, and we're building these campuses, which include parking, sometimes a daycare or whatever it is we need, and getting all the permitting done. And I got used to the whole relationship with the local and provincial governments. Now I'm doing it also in the U.S. So it's state, it's local, it's community, and it's power when it's data farms. And they're very complex, and I like it's hard. There's fewer competitors, the more complex it gets.
Sure.
So I'm really swinging for the fences on this new area that I'm working on, and I'm doing data centers, yeah.
So we were talking about a data center that you're looking at. I don't know where you're at in the process of it now, down in the eastern states, was it?
Yeah, I started in West Virginia.
West Virginia.
I met Jim Justice, the governor, now the senator. Then Kevin Stitt in Oklahoma, he's the governor there. You got to work with the governors. You got to say, look, here's what I want to bring to your state. And then Doug Burgum, who's the exiting governor of North Dakota. They all have land. They've got fiber, they got educated engineers, and they got power. And so you need the power. And so I have one in Canada as well. It's not as developed, but I've got 4 projects going at the same time. And I'm doing like everybody else would do, is running around trying to finance them and getting them organized. But I feel by getting 4 projects, I'm mitigating my risk, because at any one time something could happen with the projects.
Yep.
Plus my engineering fees are cheaper. I hired an engineering firm out of London, England that specializes in this. My site reconnaissance, I have a deal with a helicopter company, because you got to go survey these places and all this stuff. Everything's cheaper when there's 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, giving them 4 deals at the same time.
Right. So that's how I do it.
I've noticed in what I'm doing in developing these resorts and hotels that it's really taking the all of every skill that I think I've ever developed, from negotiation to just planning and organization. Every one of my projects has amazing benefits to it, but also amazing detrimental
You have to market
factors
them
to it.
too.
Correct, yeah. And when you're looking at these, what I found interesting is when you're looking at these data farms, you have that same negotiation and that give and pull.
It's brutal.
There's an extra power draw from these communities. There's jobs for these communities.
Well, you've identified the biggest problem. You roll into a community in West Virginia and you say, I've got good news and I have some other news. So the good news is you're going to hire 200 engineers for 2 years for the build-out and about 100 to maintain it. All jobs are 80 to 150,000. So great jobs for the community. And you're going to build a data center, and you're going to build, whatever you need to build to make the community happy. The bad news is you need 500 megawatts of power, which is the most anybody's ever asked for, ever, in that community. The average storage building would be 5 megawatts. I'm asking for 500. And so that means their rate card for their residents is going to go up. They're going to be paying more for their power, and that pisses off people. They don't care about data centers. And so you've got this real problem of, I got good news and I got bad news. And I feel the best way to do it is to just be transparent, go on local TV. Hi, I'm Kevin O'Leary, you know me from Shark Tank. I got a great project for this town. The bad news is you got to pay a little bit more on your power. I don't want that to happen, but that's what your power authority is telling me. But I can also employ 200 at the beginning and 100 of you afterwards at a crazy good salary. And here in West Virginia, you're not making that kind of money. So we'll see how that plays out. And the way it will be determined is, do I get the permit or not? So what you want to do with these projects is option the land, put down as little money as you can until you get the power permit.
Right.
You tell the seller, your land's worthless unless I can get the power. It doesn't matter if I buy it or someone else buys it, it's going to be the same problem. But I'm probably going to be better at getting the permit because I'm working all angles and people know who I am, so you might as well give me the land. Even under that, the land prices have gone up 30% in West Virginia because they're at full capacity in Virginia. They can't build another data center there. So I'm flying back and forth to that place. That's the coal capital of North America. But same thing in my Canadian project. These things are big, hairy deals. But in real estate, you're always dealing with some kind of zoning, some kind of permit, and you can't be an asshole about it. You got to understand you have to be a good person to deal with the local officials, or they're just going to shut you out.
Did you guys all just hear Mr. Wonderful saying you can't be an asshole, you have to be a good person?
I did say that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But you know what I'm talking about. I don't even, student housing's a big thing in a lot of towns now, too.
Yeah.
The biggest deal in Canada this year is a student housing deal. $1.7 billion just got announced last week. Guy got bought out, raised a statue. Indian family, developed, it took them 4 years to do it, built out student housing, house by house, town by town, Waterloo, and then he goes out to another college town, buys up the houses, rentals them. Same as the condo idea, but execution skills, look what he created, a lot of value.
So let's set aside the data farms. I want you to think back about your career with respect to real estate. And tell me, outside of what you're doing now and how excited you are about the data farms, what was the other type of real estate that you've been involved in that really got you excited?
What really got me excited was when I moved, I've just finished college, and I realized I'm going to have to pay rent. And I said, why am I paying some other guy rent? Why don't I buy a house, chop it up into 4 units, and I'll charge all my buddies rent, and I'll own the place, and I'll live there for free. I'll reno it. My first project was right out of college, 411 Shaw Street. It's here in Toronto. That building, I should have kept it. I'm such an idiot. I bought it for like 110 grand, put maybe 80 into the reno at that time in 1980, and I had it rented out in seconds. I did the best I could with the trades that I could, and it was my first reno. And that area was a little rough at the time. It was sort of the cocaine central of Toronto, and we had a lot of drug dealers. And I'd rent to them, too. Like, as long as somebody paid the rent, It's sort of, well, you know what I'm talking about.
In cash, right?
In cash, whatever, It's sort of whatever I could do. But it got gentrified, and I started doing more of that. The next one was in Cabbagetown. And so it's sort of, and I think it gets in your blood. You see a building, it's got good bones. You start to know the trades, the drywall guys, the plumbing guys, and you start doing it. And you want to do a good job of it because you want to stabilize it and flip it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. And so that was my first thing. Then I got involved in my first storage commercial. That was interesting because then I learned about stabilization. 400 lockers, multiple floors. Storage now, that facility is still here. We sold it, but wow, that was work. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to go through the whole permitting thing, then construction financing, and then the marketing, and then boom, it's stabilized. The new debt gets sold out.
Yeah.
So we were buying these things at like 10 cap, 11 cap, and selling them at 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So most of you know what that is. So that was you can't do that anymore because climate control storage is now a major business.
Yeah, totally.
It was early in those days.
Let's switch gears and talk about social media for a second. We talked about it a little bit out back. I spend incessant amounts of times speaking to folks that trust me as a coach and helping them to understand the importance of just getting online, being transparent, building a following. And I tell them that the reason you want to do this is it's going to make any business you're building easier.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
It's the most important thing now. When I go to look at businesses, I always say, who's doing your social media for you? I don't care what business it's in. Who is telling the story of the business so that if I go online and see who are these guys, what's the story? It's so important, but it's particularly important in real estate and even more so in condos because if you haven't even broke ground, I think of some of the projects, you know, in Fort Lauderdale that were specifically built for Canadians. It was all about the 3D model and the social media around the build and where the parking was, where the restaurants were, you know, the view from above to see what you would see out of your balcony versus the other side. That stuff really, really works because in Florida, they'd sell out the entire building before they broke ground. They're allowed to do that and take the cash and use it to build the building. As long as they get it done within 36 months. Otherwise, you have to redo the contract. But a lot of Canadian developers down there, they're doing that on the islands too. And so you need social media to sell the vision and the story of what this thing's going to be because you can't touch it, you can't see it. And I think for real estate, it's crucial. And there's great companies, and the price of the stuff has come way down to do it. The fly-throughs on the renos really matter. They really matter. People care about the bathrooms and the kitchens and storage and all that stuff. I can't say enough about it. I mean, you can't market a building anymore from just you got to have digital. But there's a very famous case just a couple of weeks ago on Chestnut Park in Toronto. Very high-end deal. Came on the market at $24 million. And I said, that is never going to sell. Never, 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 never going to happen. It's going to sell for $18 million. Max, if you can find a buyer.
And?
It closed above ask. Now, they spent a fortune on digitizing the entire experience of seeing the interior of the house to global buyers in London, in Hong Kong, and the most incredible, you know, just the building, you felt like you were in it. Really well done. And then when they arrived, when they had very, very specialized buyers and they qualified them, who had watched this thing and gotten used to it, the experience inside was identical to the digital.
Wow.
So they didn't screw around. They made sure it was perfect. And it sold above ask. It's a legendary deal in Canadian real estate. This is using social media to market something at an extraordinary price.
Yeah.
Like that is like $8,000 a square foot.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, but everybody in here should understand what happened there. There was no buyer walking through that building until they'd seen it digitally. That was social media.
Fundraising.
Yeah.
Something that's near and dear to your heart. So you told me, and I won't share any of the details, obviously, that you're literally doing one of the biggest real estate deals you've ever done, and you're raising all the capital to do the deal.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to swing for the fences. I've done, you know, the older you get, the more you want to do like a flagship legacy deal. That's what I want to do. I've been doing real estate my whole life, and I want to do something huge. I'm not saying I'll get it done. It's so crazy, so big, and you'll hear about it soon because it's going to be in Canada.
We're talking tens of billions of dollars.
We're talking billions of dollars, which I've never done before. So, you know, this is a big, big, big project, phase 1 to phase 5.
So is it fair to say, at the point in your career where you're at, you're out raising funds more than you've ever done before, projects that are larger than you've ever done. Is it fair to say that somebody just getting started in this space, if they're going to focus on developing any skills, developing a skill set that allows you to go out and raise capital might not be a bad idea?
No, it's like I said in point 2 of the 3 points. Do you have the executional skills to tell an investor, I can do this, and I have proof that I've done it? So even if you have to start small and you're just doing a condo reno for the first time or you're flipping a house, you got to execute. You got to do one successfully. Then you do another one. Then you do another one. By the time you've done 3, the market believes you can do it. And that's what you did. That's exactly what you did.
Yeah,
you start thinking bigger. So I have the credibility to go and ask for a crazy amount of money because I've done it before. And I know what it takes, and I'm able to hire the teams and the engineering people and all the stuff I need. But why think small? Why not think, you know, I showed this one to my wife, and she said, are you fucking crazy? Like, are you out of your mind?
Oh,
like,
our wives think a lot.
You know, I said, no, I'm going to do this. She said, That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. I said, why is it crazy? Why can't I do it? What? Until someone says no, I'm not going to stop. And
even if they say no, are you going to stop?
no. But the thing is, everybody I've called when I drop the B, I say the first phase is $1.2 billion. Ooh, okay, I'm interested. If it's that big, why not look at it? Like, it's big. It's really big. And the other thing I'm doing this for, and I'll just be honest with everybody in here, I haven't invested in Canada since Trudeau came into power. I've done nothing here. That guy is like a mouse running around the kitchen, and his own caucus has a, like, yeah. They're after him with a broom, and they're going to swat him soon. They're going to get him. And what my job is, what I've done is I've gone back out there to the institutional market, which has left Canada. Really, the way you can measure it, outflows of capital, even CPP invests more outside of Canada. Our pension plan, your pension plan, invests outside of Canada because you can't get projects done here. So the nightmare is going to be over soon. He'll be gone, and I think capital will look again at Canada because we have the power. We have the power, we got the educated population, we'll get better policy. We need to sweep Ottawa clean, and I think that'll happen, just the way it's. And I think it'll be a reawakening of projects here. Yeah.
Did you hear that? Kevin O'Leary for Prime Minister.
No, I'm not running for Prime Minister. Well, I would rather go build some stuff, you know? And I think I can raise capital again because when I used to go and say it's in Canada, they say, no, we don't do. Nobody wants to invest with Justin. Nobody. Yeah. Nobody trusts that guy. Yeah. He is the. I don't want to get going.
Yeah, we don't want to go.
It's so important that he get a new job. I can't. Whatever it is.
Well, while we're all here together, because I know there are a lot of people in this room that are investors in our projects, in our resorts that we're building, I want to just publicly say in front of Kevin, thank you to you, because Kevin was our keynote speaker at our very first Real Estate Investor Summit 3.5 years ago. And before we went on stage...
It was pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah, it was right before the pandemic started. It was November of that year.
Yeah.
And we sat in the green room, and I explained to him that I was building this company with a whole bunch of cottages, and I was going to be renting them on Airbnb. And he said, it's a great idea, but you're thinking too small. You should go looking at bigger properties with more of these things on them. And it was that thought that he put in my mind that eventually led to what we're doing today. So I want to thank you for constantly pushing people to think bigger. That's one of your gifts.
Real estate is one of those businesses where sometimes bigger is less risky.
Yeah.
Because it has more opportunity for cash flow. It has, unless you get too much leverage on it, it's always about how much debt you're putting on it. But when I think about my first house, it only had 4 units in it. And then in Cabbagetown, we were able to get a 5th in. And so, even if one guy's rent doesn't go through that month or two, it's open and you don't have a renter for a couple of months, the bigger the better, you know what I mean? And so I really feel that about real estate. And usually the banks that work with you, if you get a successful project, they'll back you in the next one, whatever the market rates are. They'll keep backing you, or whatever source you're getting your capital from. Great developers get trusted, and Canadian real estate has been a pretty damn good investment. It really has. A lot of people want to buy here. A lot of people want to move here. A lot of people want to live here. It's a pretty good country from that perspective. And when it gets unlocked for foreign investment, when the government flips over, it's going to be even better.
Okay, I'm gonna push a little bit to see if you're. I didn't even know if you're allowed to speak about this publicly or to what degree you are. But one of the things that just fascinates me about you is that not only are you willing to take bigger risks than you are, but you're still really willing to get outside of your comfort zone and get into different things unlike you've ever done before.
Yeah.
And you've got a project like that going on right now. If you're willing to say anything at all about that, please do. If not, speak about just how out of your comfort zone you're getting to do something like that.
Yeah. Somebody told me once years ago, if you want to keep your life interesting, always try something that you're not comfortable doing. Doesn't mean you'll be successful, but it'll make you anxious, it'll make you think, it'll energize you to get up and try something you've never done. And sometimes that could be learn a musical instrument or try something. And so once you get in the rut of, even if you have a successful business, you're doing the same thing over and over every day, you need something just to fire you up, to keep you keep your mind sharp and your life interesting. So I got a phone call it was July. It was July. This summer. I have a place up on Lake Joseph, and I was hanging out, and
Just a little place.
yeah, I like it. And so I was sitting on the dock, and the phone rings, and this guy, his name is Josh Safdie, and I knew the call was coming because one of my lawyers called me about it, and he said, "Look, I'm the director of Adam Sandler's movie called Uncut Gems, and the writer was a guy named Ronnie Bronstein, and I'm doing a new film set in New York in 1952. And Ronnie, the writer, is a huge Shark Tank fan, has watched every episode. And we have this role of a let's call him an entrepreneur who is a very, very wealthy industrialist in New York City in 1952. He's one of the richest men in America. And he's married to Gwyneth Paltrow, and he's playing across from Timothée Chalamet, and we think you're the guy for that role." And I said, "Listen, I've never done scripted movies. I've never shot a movie before. I've never learned lines." He said, "We don't give a shit about that. We would like you to fly down here and just read the lines with Timmy and Gwyneth and just see how it goes." And I said, "Guys, I just had my hip replaced 2 days ago. I'm sitting on the dock relaxing, sipping a little Chardonnay. I'm not flying to New York."
A sweet Chardonnay.
Yeah, and he said, "We'll fly to you." And so the next morning, they were there. We're sitting on the dock with the head of the producer, Eli, Ronnie Bronstein, and Josh, and I'm reading the script, which I've never done before. And they're taking the other roles, and my wife's upstairs. We're in the boathouse, and she's listening. And the more the day goes on, the more I'm getting in the groove. You know, I'm getting in the groove. I'm getting in the groove, and I'm remembering the lines now, and I start saying to him, "I wouldn't say that if I were Milton." And that's the name of my guy, Milton. "I would say this, and then I would do this, and I would do this, because if you're a billionaire, you wouldn't do that." And so by the end of the day, they said, "Look, you're the guy. You're the guy for this. You're going to have to come and shoot this movie with us in New York, in London, and in Tokyo." And I said, "Look, you know, call the agent, see if you can work something out." And sure enough, boom, I'm shooting it right now. So you'll have to go and see this. And I'll tell you something about shooting a movie. It's completely different than television, because we did yesterday in New York. We started at 3 in the afternoon, 7 pages of script. 7 pages is a lot. Inside, we took over the Plaza Hotel to shoot this thing. And we worked till 5 a.m., right through the night. Stayed awake for almost 24 hours. And I said to Gwyneth, "You know, how do you do this?" She said, "Are you kidding? This is how it's going to be for the rest of your life if you do this." Because when they rent the building, they only have it for 24 hours. They got to shoot it. So it's exhilarating, it's interesting, and it's getting really, we'll see. But this is what I'm talking about. Try something a little different. This is definitely, but I've got the bug now. I like this. This is fun. This is fun. This is fun.
Okay, so Timothée Chalamet is probably one of the biggest actors in the world today.
28 years old.
Leo DiCaprio.
Yep. Yeah. And
Tell us a little bit about him.
He's dating the youngest Kardashian,
Yeah.
the billionaire girl with all the makeup stuff. Yeah. I forgot her name, but anyways, when those two, so when we're shooting, and because we're shooting on Panavision in film, every 12 minutes they have to change the film because they run out of
The big
film.
reels, yeah.
And they say, "Okay, reset, all the cameras have to reset." So we go outside, try and get some fresh air. And the first time I went outside with him, we'd shut down Times Square for 3 hours. And I go outside, and there's 1,000 girls. It was like the Beatles. They went freaking crazy when they saw him. I've never seen hysteria like that. And I thought, oh, it's about me on Shark Tank. And I said, "Is this your life? Is this your life? Can you even go outside?" He said, "No, I can't. I can't go outside." And in this movie, he's covered in prosthetics, so he doesn't look like Timmy. He looks different. And I have hair in this movie, by the way. And it takes them an hour and a half to put the hair on, because the front they have to put in one hair at a time so it doesn't look like hair plugs, so it looks natural for the close-up shots. So I'm sitting in that makeup chair for about 2 hours, I fall asleep, and then we get there at 5 in the morning. It's crazy. Anyways, we're going down the road on this, but it's interesting.
How do you guys feel of wrapping up the Real Estate Investor Summit with Kevin O'Leary? Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. And I hope to be back. And I think the message on this one is social media and think big, right? Yeah. Those are the two. And the 3 things I showed you. Do not forget the 3 things. Got to have that. All right, ciao.
See you,
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.